Hi and welcome back to Philosophy with Phil, with me, Phil Cohen. In this video I'd like to explore Succos. It's a lovely festival coming on the tail end of some very heavy stuff with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And the comparison is made to a wedding process whereby on Rosh Hashanah we're introduced or reintroduced to our groom, to God, and we declare him king of the universe and king, more importantly, over ourselves and our actions. And then on Yom Kippur, as we said, we relate to God as a bride and groom, as on a wedding day, and we come together in a very most intimate way, where we bare our souls to God, and we have none of the restrictions of our physical confines. We don't eat, we don't drink, we don't have leather shoes. We don't have those to come in our way. We don't have interpositions between ourselves and God. And then we have straight on, pretty much 4 days afterwards, we have the festival of Succos, celebrated as 7 days, and we'll talk a lot about that number 7 in a minute. In the land of Israel, they celebrated 7 days. Outside of Israel, we celebrated as 8 days for various technical reasons. But it is at its root a 7-day festival, very much symbolic of the Sheva Brachas, the 7 days of feasting that one has after a wedding. And it's cute that the analogy is brought that just as one brings a bride bunches of flowers to hold, so we bring God, so to speak, the Arba Minim, the 4 species, as like some foliage for him to, as a token of our appreciation. In the psyche, the human psyche, the video about the human psyche, we talked about 2 dimensions to the human psyche. The intellectual component, which we spoke a lot about in terms of the number 3, leading on to 4 and then 5. And we said that the intellectual component is what fuels our prayers. But what we sort of breezed over was the 7 aspects of the emotional side of ourselves. That fuels our learning. We know that when we learn with an emotional content, when we're excited about our learning, it's that much more easy to learn and remember. And various psychological studies have been shown about this. That's why we talk often about Torah in terms of love. The brachos on the Torah talk about our love. The brachos we say, the blessings we say before the Shema, talk about our love and our performance of Torah because of that enthusiasm and that joy. Torah itself is represented by the 7 branches of the menorah, and we can talk a little bit about that when we come, all being well, to Hanukkah. And in the tabernacle, in the Mishkan, there were those 2 components. There was the menorah, the 7 branches with the fire, the burning fire of energy and emotion, and then the lechem aponim, the showbread, and the shulchan, the table that it was displayed on. Representing the other aspects, actually our sustenance, our physical sustenance, but that's perhaps for a separate analogy and a separate conversation. So we also see that the number 7, as well as the number 4 and the number 3, is a very, very commonly featured number in Judaism. Certainly in the Torah, there's a shir I have heard, a lesson I heard that wherever you see an incident in the Torah, a paragraph in the Torah, and there's an important person in that incident, that person's name will often be repeated 7 times, or will appear 7 times, I should say, or that concept, if there's a particular concept, that will appear 7 times in that particular incident. In fact, there are lists on the internet you can download, 49 7s in the Torah. Okay. The number 7 is particularly appropriate for 2 festivals that we're going to talk about in the next 2 videos. This one's going to be about Succos, which is very much related to space, and we'll talk about that. Just bear with me. So 7 in terms of space. And then in the next video, in time for Project Shabbos UK, we'll be talking about number 7 in relation to Shabbos, which is together with Pesach, which is also a number 7. Don't want to get confused, but that's a number 7 as well. Pesach and Shabbos are very much are compared to each other in the Torah, but that 7 is in relation to time. Okay, but today I want to talk about the number 7 in relation to space and how we celebrate that on Succos. But first, the number 7 itself, as I say, it's a very commonly featured number, and it represents man's responsibility or dominion or control, in whatever way you want to put it, over nature. The idea being that there are 6 facets to any object. It operates in 3 dimensions: up, down, left, right, front and back. And then you have that added dimension that gives it what we call kedusha. We say in the Shabbos Musaf prayer that we are a people that sanctifies the number 7, that we bring 7 into our lives on Shabbos. But we often see that number 7 is comprised of a 1 plus a 6. As I said, in the menorah is the obvious example. Shabbos is an obvious example. The one day of the week, fueled by the other 6. But also on Succos, the 2 most important laws of Succos, about the Sukkah and about the Arba Minim, have a special significance on the first day that then percolates down to the other 6, or as I say, outside of Israel, the other 7 days. The numbers. So the way we celebrate Succos in terms of the number 7, as I say, very much linked to the concept of space, of the physical dimension. The first Mishnah in the Masechta or the Gemara, or the Mishnah that deals with Sukkah, starts talking about the spatial dimensions of a Sukkah. And we know that the Sukkah has to have 3 or 4 or 2 and a bit walls with the leaves on top, with the sukkah on top. And that's very much the way we sort of kick off our relationship with God. We do with any relationship, with a marital relationship, the first thing we do is to sort of isolate ourselves. We build walls around ourselves to define what our relationship is and is not. We move into a house, for example. But also the first step of marriage is to identify the person. There's 2 steps in the marriage process, but the first step is to identify that person and say that they are now forbidden to anyone else. Then we talk about, okay, we engage in the Kedushin process and we actually get married. So it's interesting that we define our relationship by the negativity, by pushing away things, by sitting in the sukkah, by sitting within the walls. So we show our dominion over space in that way in the sukkah, but we also do it with the Arba Minim, with the 4 species, which we wave in the 4 directions. But the symbolism of the 4 species also shows man's general dominion over the physical world, the 4 faculties that have given him dominion over particularly the animal kingdom that he has, that they, to most degree, don't have. If we look at that, Rashi and the Midrashim bring this analogy, the esrog represents man's heart, man's emotional content, man's ability to empathise with another individual, to extend themselves beyond themselves. Yes, animals get sad when they lose a loved one, but they couldn't empathise with an animal they've never met, and they certainly wouldn't empathise with somebody that has no marital some sort of kinship with them. We see pictures on the news of very sad pictures on the news, and our hearts go out to those people, and we can empathise with them, even though we've not met them and may even see just a single photo. The second aspect, the lulav, is the fact that we're bipedal, is that we stand upright and we have a spine. Yes, there are some animals, marsupials, that do that. But again, it's our combination of these 4 that we have that none of the other animals, and certainly nothing else in the physical world, has. That ability to rise above, that ability to stand and to see the panorama, to see the bigger picture, and to stand over what is beneath us, and to rise above it, and to rise above our animal instincts and our natural drives, is what sets man apart from other animals. Finally, the hadassim and the aravas, the 2 types of twigs, the leaves, that we put into the lulav binding, represent the eyes. They're the same shape of the eyes and the lips. The way we're able to perceive language, we're able to communicate with each other, and understand symbols, to read maps. To identify that isn't the thing itself, but it is just a symbol of that thing. A joke my father makes is, don't eat the menu. You go into a restaurant, you see a list of the food that's on offer. You don't go and eat the menu. It's just a representation, it's just a description of what is on offer. And it's our ability to communicate that and to identify with that, and that each of us knows that we're all looking at the same thing, has enabled us to learn and to grow and to read books and to communicate language and to discuss books and to discuss abstract concepts with each other. That has again set us apart in the physical world. But there is one thing, if you've been watching one or two of my other videos, the video on Shikolim and the video on the human psyche, that I mentioned there is one single thing that has set us apart beyond all else, even above the spiritual realm. That's our rotzai. What we call in English free will, our ability to decide. It's external to ourselves, it's that kickstart drive. Yes, we have all of those faculties in place, the four that we've just mentioned, but there's this overarching, what I described as a crown, if you like, that sits above us, that's the sort of ignition that triggers what we do. We call it free will, like I say, and it's that drive that decides whether we are pulled by our animal instincts or we're pulled to more spiritual, lofty levels. So what do we do on Succos to represent this external, this sort of overarching ability, this overarching drive? Well, I guess it's going to be obvious, but obviously that's what we do by sitting in the sukkah. The sukkah in the Kabbalistic Hasidic writings is described as a ma'akiv, like a glow around us that surrounds us. And it has solid walls, just like a crown, but and with the branches on top that leave us free to connect with our higher, loftier levels. On a more practical level, Succos is also the end of the harvest season that began in Pesach and then again in Shavuos, ends in Succos. And it was a time when agricultural farmers would be able to take stock. They'd all their grain was in the storage houses, and so they felt a tremendous overflowing of gratitude, what we would call simcha, and joy. And it's a lovely time on Sukkot as you're sitting in the sukkah and to look around and to think about what you're grateful for. It gives you a chance to look out at your house or look out at where you live. Take a step back and think about things. Think about what you have to be grateful for. And yes, we've all got our trials and tribulations, and everybody wants more. But it's a lovely opportunity to think about how grateful we can be for the few gifts, or for the many gifts that God's given us. Just one, and that's why Sukkot, by the way, is described as particularly associated with the concept of Simcha, above the other two festivals. I just wanted to give one final thought on Simchas Torah, because it often gets tagged along and it's kind of at the end, and people are just short out and fed up by the time it comes along. But just one very small thought on Simchas Torah, particularly in relation to Jewish philosophy, because I think it's profound that we have a festival in which we dance with our most sacred text. Don't forget that Torah is something we believe is written by God. It's been passed around immutable from generation to generation, thousands of years, this precious, precious Torah. There are so many laws about how it should be written, the details of each letter and the crown and the parchment we should use and the ink we should use and what happens if there's a mistake. It's our sacred text that has fueled our religion for these thousands of years and is what's kept us going all this time. And yet we take them all out of the ark and we dance with it. I don't know a single religion in the world, those that have a sacred text, that would do such a thing. It's not that we're showing disrespect to it, quite the opposite. We're celebrating it. We show that this is how we lead our lives. We show that it's to be enjoyed, it's to be celebrated. We worship Simchas Torah, according to Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, with our feet, by dancing. Yeah? The lowest part of our body, the smallest, most insignificant part, and yet the part that sustains us and keeps us upright, like I said, that keeps us bipedal, that serves us, that we use to serve God and to learn His Torah. Every inch of our body is infused with a love and enthusiasm for Torah, and we show that by dancing, by using the most insignificant part of our bodies. Chag Sameach, Have a great Yom Tov, and again, Lashon Tova Masuka.